Imagine for a moment those real life situations where you would have cursed yourself, you would have really looked down upon yourself, or not even supported yourself when you needed yourself the most. We don't realize that there is so much love and respect that you deserve. And all of this affection has to start with yourself. So we all have our best friends forever, right? But have you ever thought of making yourself your BFF? This is one of the best ways of building your self-esteem. Today we're going to look at some very practical ways of starting to love yourself. Only when you start loving yourself will you start respecting yourself, and will you start building that self-esteem, which is so important. Let's take a look at the steps now. So the first step that we're going to really look at is make a note of all those pluses and minuses that you have. Think about all of your strengths, think about your weaknesses, think about the things that you're proud of yourself for. Think about those things also that really turn you off, the things that you regret for. So you have to be really true to yourself when you do this activity, okay? Few cues that probably I could share across with you. One would be something like your personal appearance. There are some things that people don't like about themselves. I personally don't like my nose, but what I like about myself is my height, right? And I stand really tall. That's one. Second thing you could think about is your mental abilities. Are you a creative person? How fast are you in learning things? Are you a slow learner? Do you take time to understand and then learn? What kind of social skills do you have? Are you somebody who really mixes up well with people instantly? Do you click with people instantly? Or do you feel very uncomfortable when a stranger approaches you and tries to strike a conversation? Also think about the fact that if you're a professional, are you a workaholic? If you're a student in school or college, are you somebody who is into your books all the time? Or are you somebody who just wants to quickly finish their homework and their studies and then run downstairs to play with your friends? Are you that kind of a person? What kind of a personality do you have? Do you believe very strongly in ethics? Are you a non-hypocritical person? Are you fun-loving? Do people enjoy your company? Do you love and respect people? And last but not least, what are the kind of relationships that you have with people? Do you demonstrate respect and care and tenderness? Or do you feel non-empathetic when something goes wrong? Step number 2, you should start complimenting yourself. You should start thanking God every single day for all of those pluses that you've mentioned above, all of those strengths that you're very proud of. And second thing that you should be doing is start making balanced statements in front of people. Probably something like, I'm not a great painter, but I make wonderful caricatures. So here you are talking a lot about your pluses, but also humbly accepting the fact that you have some flaws. Step number 3, what are those steps that you're going to take to kind of neutralize all of those minuses that you really spoke of in step 1? So of course there are some things that you cannot undo, but well, what you can do is you can start thinking about how is it that you can make it better now. Set some smart goals for yourself. Cut those goals down, to break them down to weekly targets, and then slowly, eventually, gradually, start achieving those, converting those minuses into your current pluses. And of course, let's accept it, there are some things that you cannot change. I can't change my nose, right? So I have accepted that that's the way it is. I'm just gonna love it now. And the next thing that you can do is write down a pep talk for yourself, a very short and crisp pep talk that you can kind of paste in a place that you can see every now and then as you keep crossing. Because, guys, pep talk is very important to build up your self-esteem and to make yourself feel positive all the time. Step 4 is my favorite step. Identify all of those villains and vamps who broke your self-esteem in life. How is it that you're going to do that? Think about all of those negative prejudiced statements that you've been hearing of ever since you can kind of go into flashback. Ever since, probably things like, you're a girl and you shouldn't be doing that, you're a boy, you shouldn't be crying, and so on and so forth. The next thing, think about it. How many of these statements have been reinforced by society? And every now and then they are literally drilled into your head. The next thing you can think about is, what are those misunderstandings that you would have had in life? I'm sure everybody's gone through it. Identify those misunderstandings in life. The next thing, in this dog eat dog kind of a world, who have you been compared with all the time? Are you being compared with your cousins? Your cousin studies very well, you haven't scored those marks. This person in the team has done a fantastic job, you're useless, you couldn't even do this much. With who have you been compared in your life? The next thing, important, in our upbringing, we kind of don't realize it, but through our parents and our teachers, who kind of start finding flaws in everything that we do. Rather, anything that we do, you walk up to them and you say, hey, I've done this. And instead of saying, hey, that's wonderful, great job, fantastic, what do we end up saying? Oh, you know what? You haven't written this properly. This color shouldn't be in comparison with this color. It doesn't really gel well in the picture. And so on and so forth. So you start learning how to find fault everywhere. So is it that behavior that's acting like a villain or a vamp in your life? Another thing that really bothers a lot of people is the fact that everything for you is either black or white. You're either the best in doing something, or you think you're worthless. Doesn't really work that way, honestly. The next thing is your own tendency of exaggerating all negatives in your life. And last but not least, something that you can't really fight with, which is actually a villain or a vamp. The death of somebody very, very close to you, or some catastrophic incident that would have happened in your lifetime. So once you identify these villains and these vamps, you need to learn how to deal with them now than never. Accept that people make mistakes, just like you make mistakes. People make mistakes because of the own negatives which are going on in their lives. If somebody ever thought that you were pathetic, it does not make you a worthless person. It does not. Just try and forgive them and move on in life. I know it is easier said than done, but you've got to take a step somewhere so that it doesn't really bother you. Either take a step to reconcile with them, sort things out, and then move on graciously. Otherwise, just cut yourself off completely. Let them vanish in thin air somewhere. Step 5. Break free from society's sinister messages for you. If you think that when you're on social media, or when you're watching the news, or when you're watching Netflix or Amazon Prime, or anything like that, or any kind of media, when you're getting into that and you think it's kind of impacting you mentally, stop right there. Don't let it go any further, because that will start impacting you. The next thing, think positive. Don't compare yourself with people. There are some people who are paid to have a great body, models, actors, actresses. It does not mean that you will start saying bad things about yourself. What you just need to focus on, remember being positive, is the fact that you got to be fit and healthy. That's all. The next thing, don't let those nagging bosses or those very, very critical and difficult colleagues get into your nerves all the time. I know, again, it's very easy for me to say it, but it's very difficult when you've got to do it. Either you kind of ignore them, learn to ignore them, or just give it back to them. But don't keep it in yourself. Just don't do that, because you will start ruining yourself. You will start getting migraines. You will start getting stress attacks, anxiety attacks, and we don't want that to happen. And last but not least, start making fun of your own flaws by accepting them. Step number 6, find something that you're great at. And believe me, champion it. Be so good at it that the whole world starts envying you. It will give you that feeling that I'm worth it. And the fact that there's something that you know better than anybody else. Step 7, start getting involved in people's lives in a positive way. Be available for them if they ever need to speak their hearts out. Do that. Remember to digest what people express out to you. Don't just make it a topic of gossip and conversation around with other people. Step 8, learn to adopt this new lifestyle of feeling really important and respected. How will you do that? It's very, very simple. Be aware that there will be downtimes, okay? But learn to recognize them preemptively now. Next, identify all those villains and vamps in your life. Keep them away. Find a support system for yourself. That's going to be very, very critical. Remember, everybody's got flaws. Superheroes have got flaws as well, if that kind of makes you feel better. Remember, you're human, okay? Nobody's perfect, and perfectionism is a disease. Last but not least, start examining your life through a mirror, not a magnifying glass. Be with people who help to raise your self-esteem and people who value your presence in their life. Start complimenting people gracefully and graciously. Do it. Find your garden of joy. It could be gardening. Your garden of joy could be exercising. It could be listening to music. It could be reading a book. It could be watching movies back to back. Whatever it is, find it and do it at least once in a week. Remember, to declutter your life, you need to first declutter your room and your surroundings. Redecorate everything if needed. Make things nice and rosy and colorful to bring color back into your life. Practice relaxation to enjoy living life without guilt. Tell yourself you deserve it. Remember, fake it till you make it. This is Rosie from the Synapses Studio.